Good evening, Zimbabwe, and thank you for joining us on Nehanda TV. My guest today is none other than the Secretary General of the Movement for Democratic Change Alliance, Yavanoti MDC Alliance. So that's the Secretary General there, Chalton Hwende. Thank you, comrade.
Thank you very much, Comrade Lance, and your viewers.
Aditika. So obviously we've invited you and we've asked people to send in questions for you. So I'll be asking some of those questions that have come over. But to get the ball rolling, let me start off from you as president of the SRC Harare Polytechnic all those years ago. You've transitioned yourself from a student leader into national politics, and you are now the Secretary General of the largest opposition party in the country. How has that transition been for you? Have you managed?
Thank you very much, Comrade Lance. Indeed, we have managed to transit from being student leaders. You know, we started as student leaders, myself and Advocate Nelson Chamisa. I remember at the Polytechnic, I took over from you and Dr. Rohanya after your successful stint in the student leadership. And I was a student leader there, president for the SRC, elected twice, showing that students had confidence in myself. I went on to work with Comrade Lenmo Jongwe in the Zimbabwe National Students Union, and then ended up being seconded by Zinasu to work in Southern Africa as their representative in Windhoek at the Southern African Student Union. And also, I think you remember that I became the first Zimbabwean to be elected as Secretary for Africa, and I served in the executive of the International Union of Students, and I was working in Prague. So I've worked quite a lot in the student movement, and then came back to Zimbabwe to work with our colleagues, all the organizations that came together to form the Movement for Democratic Change. So the transition has been very easy. Most of my time during the student movement, I have been in the administration of the student movement, and now I am the chief administrator of the MDC Alliance.
Okay. There's been criticism that as people who transition from the student activism, you have been elbowing out trade unionists who were aligned to particularly Morgan Tsvangirai. Is this a true accusation? Would you agree that since maybe President Nelson Chamisa took over, you've been elbowing out trade unionists?
That's far from the truth, Comrade Lance. In fact, the former student leaders constitute the minority in the MDC leadership. As you are aware, the MDC was formed by over 32 civic society organizations. We had the labor, led by ZCTU, Zinasu, obviously led by that time by Lenmo Jongwe and other student leaders, and women organization, student organization, farmers, war veterans, you name it. If you look at the current structure of the MDC as led by Advocate Chamisa, you will find out that the national chairperson, Comrade Tabitha Kumalo, is a trade unionist, former vice president of ZCTU. We have our organizing secretary is a former trade unionist, Comrade Chibaya. We have our vice president, Mike Kore, a community leader, former councillor. Mike Nanzwawana, my deputy, is also a former teacher, community leader. We have, and my other deputy, Senator Chimini, also from the civic society movement. And so you can see that even the top leadership, the wings of the MDC, even they are not led by former student leaders. Mai Mugido leading our women assembly, is a grassroots community leader that he was elevated to the leadership of the MDC. So that cannot be true. In fact, under the leadership of Advocate Nelson Chamisa, we have seen more trade unionists, we have seen more community leaders coming into the MDC fold. So we have not elbowed anyone. The MDC is a broad church, it's a broad movement. Everyone is welcome, and we give equal opportunity. We must renew the party, and so forth.
But surely something is happening. If you look at some of the people who've defected, you know, your Tapiwa Mashakadas, your Lillian Timvios, your Blessing Chebundos, there seems to be an older generation in the party that is getting frustrated and that is leaving the party. So you might have people like Tabitha still with you, but do you not feel as a party that maybe you have contributed to some of these elderly party members leaving or defecting?
No, not at all. Apart from having a young president, Advocate Nelson Chamisa, and myself, the Secretary General, who is still under 50, most of the leaders that we have are elderly leaders, people that have been with the movement since its inception. We still have, for example, Comrade Shoko, an elderly ZCTU activist, still with us, is a member of the National Executive leading our labor movement. We still have Comrade Hwende with us in the National Executive, a former president of ZCTU, a lot of elderly people. So I view it as a mixture of the young and the old. Remember when the President Trankrai went to South Africa, the last letter that he wrote to us, he confirmed that it's time now for the young people to take over from him, from his generation. But we have maintained the core of the MDC, and they continue to guide us. They continue to share their experience with us, and they continue to lead in the party. So yeah, obviously we are a young party. There's future for young people. You can see with the demographics that the young people constitute the bulk of the voters. So naturally, you will also see a lot of young people, unlike ZANU-PF, that is comprised of only old people. They don't have room for growth. They don't have room for renewal. MDC is different. It's an open movement and so forth. So I think we have a balanced team that we are leading.
Okay, now this interview comes at a time when, or rather a bad time for you as a political party, in terms of you've lost your headquarters, Harvest House. The political party's Finance Act money is going to your rivals in the MDCT led by Douglas Mwanzora. Is it a fair criticism to say you've been outsmarted by the Mwanzora faction?
Not at all. As far as we are concerned, dishonest individuals like Comrade Mwanzora cannot outshine people of integrity. We understand the present circumstances that we are living with. The Harvest House, I must confirm to your viewers that the Harvest House has not been taken because the ownership of the Harvest House is clear. It rests with the owners. They have title deeds. The MDC Alliance, led by Advocate Chamisa, has possession, a rightful possession given to us by the owners that we are fighting in the courts. We were not successful in the High Court, but now we are before the Supreme Court. We are waiting for a date for the matter to be dealt with. And we are pretty confident that because the matters are so clear and the owners want the MDC led by Advocate Chamisa to be in Harvest House, but the army, Comrade Mnangagwa and their militias want their opposition created party led by Mwanzora to be there. So we are confident that the law will win. We are confident that the judges find favor in the law. If you look at the Political Finance Act, yes, they have taken the money illegally and given to Monzora. They created him and they needed to fund him. But they are funding him with money that they've illegally diverted from the MDC Alliance. Even the High Court agreed with us that the money belongs to the MDC Alliance. And as we stand now, the government ignored a High Court ruling that directed them to stop disbursement of funds to Monzora's MDCT, because Monzora's MDCT was a participant in the last election. They got 2 seats and they did not meet the 5% threshold. And as a result, they are not entitled to receive any government grant. So these are matters that are before the court. Even the High Court, in a rare judgment, sided with the view that was being articulated by our lawyers. And who is appealing? It's the government appealing on behalf of Monzora. So what is in for government to appeal on behalf of Monzora, who has 2 seats in parliament? Everybody is wondering. But the government is one that has taken that matter to the Supreme Court.
Are you, though, not creating your own problems? Prior to the issue of Harvest House going to court, I think your side of the party was declaring that you had lease agreements. And when it came to court, some of the lawyers are saying those documents were nowhere to be found. So is that not problematic? Are you not being outsmarted? And the blunt question is, where was the lease agreement?
No. It's actually the issue of lease agreement was an issue that was being peddled by the Herald. We don't have any lease agreement. We were very clear from the day one that we have a right of use from the owners, because the owners bought that building, put it in a trust. It is meant for use by people that are fighting for democratic change in Zimbabwe. And it's up to the owners for them to decide which outfit is genuinely articulating people's issues. And according to the owners of the building, out of their wisdom, they gave Advocate Chamisa and the MDC Alliance the right of use. So from time to time, you have seen that the right of use for Harvest House has changed. Even when the MDC split when the late president was there was MDC Green, there was MDCT, there was PDP that came out from all those splits. But the owners were consistent. They gave the right of use to President Tsvangirai, and this is what they've done. I can't speak on behalf of the owners, but look, the matter that was before the court then was who had the right of possession, peaceful possession. It was us. We were removed in the middle of the night. I was called by a worker at Harvest House around 11:45 when soldiers and police came and blocked the entrance and took over the building. They took over the building by force because we had rightful possession. So when we went to court, we didn't go to court to prove that we were the owners of the building, because we are not the owners of the building. But we went to the court to claim our right for possession that we duly had, and that the army had no right to forcibly take us out from the Harvest House. So that's what happened. Okay. So we are still that matter.
Another criticism is you already know, as you always allege, that the courts are captured by ZANU-PF. So people are asking, why are you always going to court when you know the outcome?
Comrade Lance, we operate in a democracy. We believe that in the judiciary, there are still men and women that are committed to upholding the constitution and the rule of law in Zimbabwe. So from time to time, we obviously, when we have legal issues, we also take them to the court. But we appreciate the difficulties that the judiciary is operating under. Any judge that rules against the MDC is victimized. We have seen open, direct victimization of judges. Another judge had to leave Zimbabwe in a container of a truck to escape the Mnangagwa's victimization. So we understand that this happens. So, but whenever we have had a problem, we always adopt a two-pronged strategy. We go legal and also political. And you will see that as we move on, the political strategy will begin to play more, but obviously it has been affected by COVID. But we understand the difficulties, we understand the circumstances that we operate in. The issues are very clear. The building has someone that has got title deeds issued. So these are very clear matters that we are placing before the court. And more also, we are a part that believe in dialogue, in negotiation. The region is watching. If the region intervenes, they will ask you whether you've exhausted domestic remedies. And this is part of our strategy to make sure that the domestic remedies are exhausted. But we know that the power lies in the people, the power lies in the street, and people can reclaim what is theirs anytime. And we reserve the right to exercise that option. And I can assure you and your viewers that very soon that option is going to be exercised.
Okay. One thing that annoys your supporters has been the seeming dilly-dallying over a party name. The issue of the MDC name annoys your supporters to death. Can you, as Secretary General, answer this question? What is the way forward, given that at times Douglas Monzora and his party have insisted that they will contest elections as MDC Alliance? Where does that leave you? Do you have a new party name that you will use for by-elections or elections in the future?
I don't see where the confusion is. Monzora and the court judgments that he has recognizes him as the MDCT. We participated in the elections as the MDC Alliance. When Monzora went to court to fight over the name, he was fighting for the MDCT, but we're not fighting for the MDCT ourselves. We have always been consistent from day one that we are the MDC Alliance, a grouping that initially involved a number of different political parties that came together and registered to participate for the elections. After elections, we then transformed the political party into a political entity. And so when the parties came together, they had an intention to operate as a political party. And after the elections, we then went for Congress. Those who didn't want to come with us to Congress, like for instance, Comrade Ngaruvume, exercised that option and they remained with their entities. But the people that wanted to come with us, subjected themselves to our Congress, went ahead, dissolved their entities, and everybody came back under the umbrella of the MDC Alliance, led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa. So we are the MDC Alliance. We are fighting for the MDC Alliance in court. We have a pending matter before the Supreme Court that is waiting for set down. And we believe we have a strong case. We believe that the case...
Okay, but Comrade Hwende, I think you know the outcomes in court are predetermined. So are you not just chasing the wind here? It is more than likely the courts will side with the MDCT if we are to follow the precedent. So your supporters are asking, instead of relying on the courts to help you, which you know they will not, is there a plan B in terms of a party name to contest elections?
No. We are not relying on the courts to help us. The MDC supporters and the people of Zimbabwe know the party that they want. So even if they are given, we have participated before in elections. MDCT, MDC Green, MDC Alliance, and whatever. But ultimately, the people know their true representatives. So as we are not concerned, we are not worried because the people know the track record. They know that their leader is Advocate Nelson Chamisa. So when we have exhausted the legal processes. At that particular point, if, for example, the state would have succeeded in dismissing a strong case that we believe we have, it's not about the name. It's about what we stand for. It's about what Advocate Chamisa represents. It's about the transformational agenda that the MDC that is led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa leads. Everyone knows that Monzora, Komichi, and so forth, they are a creation of Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa created these parties as part of his strategy of coup proofing. These guys took over power through coup, and one of the major requirements was for them to form a political. People know that Zimbabweans are very smart, so we are not worried. When the time comes, if we need, because everything has been taken to us, we will consult the people. We have been out, we sent people to consult the people on the way forward. The people were very clear. They told us that we must fight for the name, but they also gave us an alternative, a plan B that we will use if we don't succeed. Because we are so confident that we are winning the next election as we have won the past elections. We are confident that power is going to be transferred, whether people like it or not. We are not worried about issues of names, whatever name that can be used. What we are worried about is we are worried about ushering a new democratic government. The issues of names, issues of building, issues of money can then be resolved by the new administration that is going to come, that will be led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa.
Okay, talking about names, people have seen the whole CCC naming or branding. I think it's Citizens Convergence for Change. Is that the new name? You seem to be unwilling to commit to saying which name the party will be using. Can you explain what CCC is? Because some are rightfully picking up saying it means Chamisa Chete Chete.
Not at all. I know that Zimbabweans can't be confused by 3 letters, triple C. If you go back, triple C was a hashtag that was created by supporters of Advocate Nelson Chamisa as we went for the last election. So it's in twofold. There's a triple C that was created by the supporters that they used to campaign and canvass votes for Advocate Nelson Chamisa, which rightfully means, like what you are saying, that our leader is Chamisa Chete Chete. But we also have a triple C that comes from our 2021 agenda. The agenda, like you have rightfully said, that it means a citizens' agenda for change. That's the agenda that we are carrying forward today. So it's not a name of any political party. We are clear that we are the MDC Alliance until we have exhausted all the means. But I'm sure that what we have, we will still remain MDC Alliance, because we have not unleashed our political strategy, as we said earlier on, and that strategy has worked. The people will determine which party they want, which party name they want, because if you allow Mnangagwa to take over a name, for instance, then you easily come back as the party C. What guarantee do you have that he's not going to come back again and take that party from you? So what is key here is that we need to fight for reforms so that we don't have a situation where a sitting president who is a candidate in any election determines which name political parties must use.
Okay, but Comrade Hwende, right now ZANU-PF is preparing for by-elections. So how can my by-elections next week? Which name are you guys going to use?
Our focus now as the MDC Alliance is for electoral reforms. The biggest problem that we have in this country is contested elections. So even if they were going to have by-elections tomorrow and the conditions for a free and fair and transparent elections are not there, it's not going to give any change, because the problem that we have a captured ZEC. where the ZEC chairperson announces fake results. Surely that cannot be cured by a change of name. It needs electoral reforms. So we are busy putting up a strategy to ensure that we fight for reforms in this country. We want to make sure that we have a ZEC that is not controlled by ZANU-PF, a ZEC that is not controlled by the military. We want to make sure that the military is removed from civilian politics. We want to make sure that the playing field is leveled. We are not asking for much. We are simply asking for the same recommendations that SADC made in all their SADC election observer reports.
Okay, I get your demand for electoral reforms. My question though is, Kukanzima by-elections next week, what name will you guys use?
If it is next week, Comrade Lance, what the party is going to meet and make a decision. As I've said previously, the last National Council that we had as a party, the members of the MDC understands the difficulties that we have. We are operating under a military dictatorship. So obviously, once in a while, sometimes even if we insist on a particular course of action, because of the environment that we operate in, sometimes it's difficult for us to sustain that argument. Our people know that. We with the leadership is aware of that. So if it comes that the by-elections are called tomorrow, the party leadership will meet. In fact, the organs of the party have already met and directed the party leadership on what to do if that event comes to being. But we all know that ZANU-PF is afraid of elections. Comrade Monzora doesn't want elections, and so forth. But obviously, we will have a plan. We have consulted widely. We sent our teams countrywide. We had a report on what the people expect us to do, and we will follow. We have always followed what our members, we have always followed what the ordinary Zimbabweans want us to do. So that issue to me is not a very important issue, because we already have a plan and strategy that we have been directed by our members to follow. So we'll simply follow that.
Okay. When Senator Lillian Timvios defected to ZANU-PF, she had some choice words for you, accusing you of bullying, amongst other accusations. Let's go into that. Why do you believe Senator Timvios joined ZANU-PF, and is it true you bullied her and others into making those decisions?
Honestly, if all the people that are in the MDC, they know how the MDC has been on the onslaught of state-sponsored violence by ZANU-PF. We have lost a lot of people that were murdered, maimed, and injured by ZANU-PF government. A lot of people have lost work. A lot of people have lost opportunities. A lot of people have lost family as a result of the MDC. One would, if a genuine member of MDC, we have enough internal remedies to resolve conflict. If somebody internally has a genuine grievance against myself, against any other leader, there is a formal process to follow. I would have listened to Timvias's bully accusations if she was going to make those accusations in Zvishavane, saying, no, I failed to work with the SG, but I'm here at my house. Please, leadership, can you resolve? Not from someone who is at Shek building. That has been our position. But at that time, when she left the MDC, we were very clear, because we were involved with her on issues that she was raising. We knew that, for instance, that Maya Mnangagwa she had approached Maya Mnangagwa. We knew, for example, that Lillian Timvias had problems with the car being confiscated by ZANU-PF, like what they've done with all of us. Everybody's in court. The cars have been taken. She didn't want her car to be taken, so she approached the people from ZANU, who assured her that her car was not going to be collected. And indeed, they stick to their promise. When the summons were issued for people to return cars, all the MPs that had been recalled, Lillian Timvias' name is not there. So it has nothing to do with her being bullied or the accusations that she has made, because previously she had never made those accusations. But we are free. MDC I'm sure you are aware that previously we have acted against grievances that have been raised by members. And surely, if she had grievances, the party was going to act. I was once suspended myself when I pointed out how Comrade Coupe was selling out and undermining the leadership. I was suspended, but with time, those what I was saying that time was proven correct. You know, Coupe later on came out and joined the Mnangagwa. The same applies with the Douglas Monzora. We have been pointing it out. The biggest problem that we have, we know ZANU-PF has planted people that are operating within the MDC, people that have no interest of taking the country forward, people that are double agents who are there. We know them. We now have experience. We are flashing them day in and day out. So we are aware of that. But if she had a genuine given, I'm sure many Zimbabweans by now, when the issue came out, they were not understanding what was happening. But with benefit of time, like what is happening now, everyone now knows that she went out to ZANU-PF for her to get a job. For her, her husband, he had gold mines that were about to be taken by youth. Youth had invaded those gold mines. But now, once she went to ZANU-PF, those youths have been removed from the husband's mine. So these issues have nothing to do with people. These are issues that have everything to do with your personal well-being. What can you do?
Okay, but you did make those accusations, and I think Nehanda Radio published a very strongly worded rebuttal from Senator Lillian Timvios, in which she was saying, oh, what you are saying is not true, and that she was a businessman or she is a businesswoman and has even been sponsoring the party. So she took umbrage at those allegations that you are making, saying agarane zvinhu.
No, but why don't you now follow up and ask her why she was recalled? When first were recalled, there were 4 people that were recalled. Myself, Honorable Kumalo, Honorable Mutseami, and Lillian Timvias. Why is it that summons for recovery of cars have only been issued for the 3 of us? Yourself, the government is she's no longer in parliament. She must return the car like everybody else. But there are no summons against Lillian Timvias. We have seen now that she has been given a shop. What kind of a business person joins ZANU-PF today, and she now sells ZANU-PF regalia? They have opened a shop for her in Shavane, and we have seen, if you go to her husband's mine today, she's gold mining. There is no MDC leader that can mine, a genuine MDC leader that can mine gold in Zimbabwe. I want you to understand this thing. We have got genuine MDC people that have lost jobs as teachers. They have lost jobs as prison officers. MDC people have lost employment. MDC people have lost families. We have all lost businesses. If you join MDC, you lose everything. The state will follow you up. Even people that have attempted to help us in the past, if you donate a single cent to MDC, Zimbra will be on your call next day. So tell me, which leader of MDC can get a gold mine in Zimbabwe now? That cannot be correct.
Okay. So it's not just Timvios. Are you saying that these are similar issues that transpired with the likes of Chebundo? Your former spokesperson, for example, Obed Gutu, people like James Makore. How did all those people defect? What's causing them to defect?
The only person that defected from the MDC Alliance that is led by Advocate Chamisa was Lillian Timvias. Mr. Chebundo, when he went to ZANU-PF, he was coming out from another ZANU-PF outfit led by Douglas Monzora, so-called MDCT. He was their secretary for local government. So he did not defect from MDC Alliance. He had already left. Obed Gutu he had already left the MDC Alliance immediately after the death of former President Tsvangirai. And Senator Makore was already one of the top leaders in MDCT. So all those people did not defect from the MDC Alliance led by Advocate Cham. But I must accept that there's only one person that defected from MDC Alliance was Lillian Timvias. But those are other people defected from Monzora's outfit.
Okay. How does it happen that you have someone like Obed Gutu rising to become party spokesperson in the largest opposition party at that time, MDCT? Because this worries a lot of people, you are easily infiltrated, or I don't know if infiltration is the right word, but how do you have someone that rises to become party spokesperson, and then a few years later they are joining ZANU-PF? What does that say about your own systems and way of filtering people?
In fact, if you follow, we accept that there is a problem of infiltration. It's everywhere, not only in Zimbabwe, everywhere in the world. Political parties are infiltrated in one way or the other. And clearly, judging from the statements that are now coming out from Obed Gutu, you can see that the Obed Gutu was never MDC Alliance. So these things happen in the normal day-to-day running of political parties. But our people, they know. Elected the leadership that then came with Gutu. You will discover that Obed Gutu was never nominated by many people. He went to Congress with one nomination for the position of spokesperson. Douglas Monzora had the rest of the nominations, 10 nominations for position of spokesperson. So when Douglas Monzora then opted to be a secretary and was elected to be secretary, we were left with a problem, with one person that had a nomination from UK and 12 other provinces had not nominated him. The delegates at that Congress knew that Gutu was a sellout. They had rejected him and they wanted a fresh nomination, and it was not allowed. So even within the party, the people themselves, most of the time, they know which leader is genuine, which leader is not genuine. Look at Monzora, for example. He was elected Secretary General with one nomination, like Gutu. Not because he defeated Advocate Nelson Chamisa, no. For the very first time, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, because when we went to that Congress, we had an outstanding was supposed to be deposited in our account. It was late because of Congress. We're no longer expecting it during Congress. But the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe came with cash in the evening of Congress and gave that cash to the then treasurer and the SG who was acting that time. And that money was used by Monzora to bribe the delegates that then voted him with one provincial nomination. Where have you seen someone winning with one provincial nomination? So Monzora and Gutu during that time were already receiving state assistance, you know, and people knew that. That's why they were rejecting it. Our people will reject you. If you listen to the ordinary people on the ground, they know who is genuine and who is not genuine. Even if you look at the Monzora's issue, I can assure you, if you go back, you will see that in most of the meetings of the National Council or the National Executive, people came pushing for Monzora to be removed because they knew already that he was selling out. But we did not succeed because that time, look, you see, the president always tries to make sure that the party is balanced and these things are taken care of. But people know these things, you know. So we have a mechanism within to flush out sellouts, and constantly they are flushed out. every time.
Okay, I have a question here. I'm throwing the floor open to people. So this is Kudakwashe Blessing Chikondowa. And the dear MP Hwende, you were last seen in your constituency of Kwazana in 2018 during elections. How different are you? That's Kudakwashe Blessing Chikondowa.
2018, I'm sure you have seen that if you follow, I'm one of the most active members of parliament. We have got programs that we carry on in Kwazana. If you go to our Kwazana handles, social media handles, you will see for yourself the programs that on a day-to-day basis we are conducting. You will see that after my election, the library was completed a year later. You know, it's now functional, and I took over the work from Advocate Nelson Chamisa, completed, sourced for books. Our students are now able to read books. You will notice also that recently I was in Kwazana when COVID started. I was one of the first MPs to go with Millimil. I think you know that yourself. It was widely publicized. We went, gave households Millimil for them to be cushioned against the COVID. So we are always in the constituents. We are always running programs. But maybe my brother, I've not met him. I'm happy to meet him. You can look for me tomorrow. I'm going to take my haircut as I always do at my favorite place, and he can come there. Then we can have a chat. But to say that I was last seen in 2018 is obviously an overstatement.
Do you think there are people who take issue with you being occasionally in Namibia? Do you think that's a potential banana skin for you in your constituency?
I don't know what you mean by occasional, but I'm a businessman. I'm always in South Africa. I have business interests in Namibia. When I was elected, everybody knew that I'm a businessman. So we are always up and down, trying to survive. One thing that you need to know, Comrade Lance, is that it takes a lot of sacrifice. Personal resources, exclusion from business opportunities for you to be an MDC leader. We have people that have lost opportunities just for being an MDC leader. I'm sure you are aware of this rumor which ZANU-PF started, that we used to carry Monzora's Gushungo Diaries milk. Those were things that were meant. I'm into transport business. I don't even have trucks that carry milk, but they do that so that you lose opportunities, you know, and we don't get paid. I'm supposed to be paid by the MDC, but because of resource constraint, we must fundraise and also support the party. The MDC is supported by money that comes from members and leaders. We like now we don't have resources. I'm sure you know a party as big as MDC, you need a lot of money to run. We have more than 100 workers that are employed by the MDC. For you to run a party that has 2.6 million followers, the MDC is easily one of the top 5 brands in Zimbabwe. It's a huge organization, 10 offices in different provinces. You need not less than $200,000 to run an outfit of that nature. And you have seen that because of our creativity, we lost funds, but the party is still standing strong. The party is still having programs. The party is still alive. The party is growing. People are registering every day. It's because we are being creative. We are looking for alternative resources, and the leadership and supporters are supporting the movement. So at some point we need to work. We need to feed our families. We need to also take care of the party, because the party does not have any other source of funding.
Okay, so with Harvest House taken, where are you operating from as a political party?
We have an office where we are operating in Harare. After the military took over Harvest House, we opened brand new offices. We bought new furniture, everything is there. We still operate our 10 provincial offices, so our provinces are still operating. The party is still strong, still standing. And this shows you the resilience that the MDC outfit has, the people of Zimbabwe have. They always encourage me, they always encourage the leadership, they always encourage the party to continue, because this is a struggle. So we are well. Our programming, I'm sure you have seen our programming in terms of, we have 9,850 branches countrywide that are having branch meetings on a week basis. So to run that kind of outfit, you need a proper organization, you need offices, you need resources, huge resources that we are talking about. And we don't receive any money. I want to debunk this. We have not, I've been a deputy treasurer since 2011. We have not received a single cent from any government, foreign government. And I know everyone always says we get money from America. I've never seen a single dollar from that country, despite the fact also that it's illegal. MDC is funded by its own members. And it's not easy. We don't get paid, Comrade Lance. I'm supposed to be a full-time Secretary General, but I don't get paid. I don't get fuel. I don't get airtime. I don't get anything from the MDC. But I still go to work every day to push the democratic agenda. So the same applies to Advocate Nelson Chamisa. I've never given him fuel as the Secretary General. He uses his own fuel. He uses his own money to conduct business, but he still has a family also that he must take care of. He has got kids that are going to school. He's got a wife to take care. He must feed himself. So this is the sacrifice that we do on a day-to-day basis. All the other leaders, nobody gets paid. Nobody receives anything from the MDC. We give the MDC, we give the democratic struggle for the party to go forward. So it's huge resources that are needed. Take, for example, when you go for an election, the kind of resources that we use. For you to run an election, only election agents, you need not less than $3 million, because you are going to have 44,000 election agents. That is 4 election agents per polling station, 2 for the president and 2 for the party, MP and councillor. People that are in a polling station, those people, they need to eat, they need resources to go to the polling station, they need cell phones, they need lights where there's no lights, and they need a lot of other things. It's a huge amount of resources. So being the SG of the MDC is not an easy task. You know, it's a very difficult task. But I can assure you that, as you can see, the party is strong, it's moving. For the first time, we have managed to increase transparency in the way we conduct our things. We launched last year the first ever audit statement for the MDC, the money that we have collected from people, because we are no longer receiving any money from government. We are receiving money from ordinary Zimbabweans. Myself and David Coulthard, the treasurer, we managed to make sure that in the history of the MDC, we have the first audited statement, audited publicly, released to the members of public and so forth. We have now created an electronic membership system because of the huge volumes of young people that are joining the MDC on a day-to-day basis. We could not continue on a manual system. We introduced, now you can join the MDC by sending a message, join on a WhatsApp platform. You can join online, you can join elsewhere. So on a day-to-day, the party is growing. But for the party to grow, it needs people, men and women that are shepherding it, that are running the party, that are sacrificing. MDC is all about sacrificing.
Okay. Can I just throw in one, now that we're talking about resources, in all the controversy surrounding the 2018 elections, one thing that sold you short was your inability to produce V11s in court. Now, I heard you talking about polling agents. What happened in 2018? How is it that you found yourself unable to produce V11s in court when before the election everyone was under the impression you had polling agents in every constituency?
But I don't want to think that it's correct that we failed to produce V11s. V11s were produced, in court. That court case was given to ZANU-PF not on the account of V11s. V11s were presented, the ones that we managed to find out. But for sure we had some problems in other areas, I must admit, but sufficient V11s that supported our case. The judge didn't even look at the V11s, so it never became an issue. We had polling agents throughout the country. I want anyone who did not see a polling agent at any polling station to come to us. One thing that people must understand, that when you recruit 44,000 polling agents and you are just an opposition party, there will also be a room for even infiltration. There are some people that infiltrated that, because it's a huge mammoth task. How do you recruit 44,000 when you are not a government? Even ZANU-PF can't do that. They are helped by the CIO, they are helped by the government. So a tiny fraction of that 45,000 will obviously be adventurous CIOs that go there. But by and large, we had polling agents, we had V11s that we submitted, but the judges did not even look at the V11s. Because if they had looked at the V11s that we submitted, they could see that the tally that we had was 2.6 million, and they were going to declare Advocate Chamisa the winner.
I think the problem was you did not submit my V11s in all constituencies. You presented a sample, which was part of the problem.
It never got to that, Comrade Lance. The V11s that were submitted were never looked at. The V11s that were submitted were sufficient to support the case that we had at the Constitutional Court. But as you are aware, the court itself, even the judgment itself, is a judgment that we don't agree with. They refused to release the server that was at the center of this issue. We asked the court to assist us and look at the server, because the results were there. What happened was the ZEC chairperson announced fake results, and she knows it. Everyone knows it. And so our case was simple. Let's go to the server and see what is there. They refused. You know that. So this thing had nothing to do with V11. V11 was a creation of the state media, which wanted to make everyone believe that we had no election agent. That's why to justify Mnangagwa's fake victory. But we had election agents, we had V11s, but we lost the case because the judge refused to open the ZEC server. It's not our server, ZEC server. We said, open it and show the world that Mnangagwa has the votes that you are claiming. But they knew that he did not have those votes. That's why they refused to order us to open the server, where the results are. Even today, if you are going to go to the server, you will see that Mnangagwa did not win election. That's why he's beating people every day. No one who wins election beats people. He's fighting the same citizens that he claims that voted for him. So these are things that are clear, Comrade Lance.
Okay. Let me ask, in terms of housekeeping, as Secretary General, a lot of people have asked me to get your comment on issues of factionalism in Bulawayo and factionalism in Masvingo. Kwakamira say.
Look, the MDC is a big family, and being big comes with big challenges. People don't see the same on many issues. It's normal. Even in your family, you will see that sometimes your kids don't view things the same way that you view. And I know for a fact that some of your kids don't support Arsenal. I'm also an Arsenal supporter. But these things happen. With MDC also, we always have those problems. But what is key in a political party is for you to have internal mechanisms that deal with those contradictions. And in MDC, we have those internal mechanisms that deal with those contradictions. In Bulawayo, for example, there's no factionalism. We have a leadership that was elected by Congress. The leadership is in office. I saw a fake report that was circulated last week that there is now an interim committee. There's nothing like that. The Bulawayo political leadership is in office. We had difficulties in the past regarding the issue of our former chairperson, Masocha. It was handled within the party, resolved to the satisfaction of Ms. Masocha herself. She understood what we did, and she accepted. She's now just an ordinary member serving the party because she knows that at some point everyone must subject themselves to the party's internal mechanisms of resolving conflict. So factions are not encouraged in the MDC. If there's someone who is pursuing a factional agenda, our internal mechanisms kicks in. We try to discourage, but we cannot completely eliminate. We are a big family and we have problems sometimes. But we are united. I'm sure you can see that under the leadership of Advocate Nelson Chamisa, there's more leadership cohesion. You don't read more stories of people fighting in the papers, in the provinces. You no longer read about messenger of course attaching Harvest House properties. You don't read stories about workers not being paid. All those things are things of the past. You are now reading about the party that is playing an active role in saving Zimbabwean lives. We are currently encouraging people to be vaccinated, for example. And as a result of our call, if you have seen, ZANU-PF was struggling to convince people to get vaccinated. Before, they were vaccinating less than 30,000 people. And when the MDC came, now they are about 50. I understand yesterday they were around 58,000. We are going to make sure that in the next 5-10 days, we reach 100,000. Because people don't listen to ZANU-PF. They don't listen to Mnangagwa. And the MDC is encouraging every Zimbabwean to go and get vaccinated. People are dying. We need to save life. People listen to the party that is led by Advocate Chamisa, and they are listening. You can see from the figures that people listen to their party. It's not a political issue. It's an issue that we are responsible.
You refuse to commit on a name. Let me pick your brain on this name as a suggestion. Alliance for Democratic Change, ADC. Ragamira said.
Comrade Lance, we are the Movement for Democratic Change Alliance Party.
Yes, but it's the title Alliance for Democratic Change, ADC. How is that one?
Any suggestion of a name obviously must come from the members. The party is owned by the members. We are only leaders. If at any particular point the party membership wants to change a name of the party, there are provisions in the constitution. Those provisions we will facilitate for those provisions to be followed. We will facilitate for the wish of Zimbabweans to be followed, but it must be done in terms of our own constitution. It's not for us, the leaders, to say we are so and so, because even the MDC did not come from Morgan Tsvangirai. It came from the members. So if at this point the members want a new name, they know what to do, and our job is to facilitate their wish.
There seems to be a reluctance to let go of MDC Alliance. Some are suggesting you are trying to avoid consequences of relinquishing the name, but that you are going to change the name ultimately. Is that just a rumor?
Just like I said, we are not focusing on the name because we are 100% sure that the MDC supporters and Zimbabweans know who we are. So at whatever point, the supporters and the owners of the party want to change the name of the party, they are free to do that. And there's a democratic process that they must follow, and we are not fixed on a particular name, because it's not our purview as leaders. We will leave it to the supporters. But as I have said, we understand the difficulties that we are operating with. The dictatorship wants to capture everything. They think that if you take the name, people will vote for you. People don't vote for names. They vote for values. They vote for a party that promises the life that they want, not names. If names, there are out of the 27 people that participate, there are some people that have got very beautiful names that if it was on the strength of the name alone, they could have won the election, but far from it. So we are aware of that. So the name, let's not be fixed on the name. It's not an issue. We have said if there's a need for us to go for an election and the dictatorship has taken all the names on earth, that means at that particular time we would not have succeeded in pushing for reforms, because any election without reforms, Comrade Lance, will not. You can have a very nice name, but if you don't have political reforms, you can win the election and the ZEC chairman will still announce fake results like they announced in 2018. So as your Secretary General, I prefer for us to fight for electoral reforms so that we have an independent ZEC, so that we have a level playing field that allows for power transfer, that allows for the true winner to assume office.
There's a problem with that, because you are often accused of not fighting for electoral reforms and only talking about electoral reforms when the elections are upon us. So far, what have you done in terms of fighting for electoral reforms?
I'm sure we have seen that we have done a lot of work to push for electoral reforms. There were a work that we did. We sponsored an alternative electoral reform bill that is out, that is in Parliament now with our committee. They are lobbying it, but you know how ZANU-PF operates. We under our global agenda, we have gone through most of the capitals lobbying for electoral reforms and also sponsoring our alternative bill. But the real thing, Comrade Lance, electoral reforms are won on the street. We know that. But we have COVID now. COVID has limited our ability to get results. We know that the time that we are going to call people to fight for their reforms, people will respond like what they've done in the past, and that time is going to come. That's the reason why we are currently occupied in making sure that we vaccinate as many Zimbabweans as possible so that we achieve herd immunity. Once we achieve herd immunity, it's going to be time for for action. And action is going to come, and action will resolve. Mnangagwa must not fool himself. There is no way that we are going to allow himself to steal an election again. He is not going to be allowed to announce a fake results. He is not going to sit in that state house where Advocate Nelson Chamisa is supposed to be sitting. So that time yekutamba yapera, Comrade Lance. But we are being responsible because this pandemic is killing a lot of people. So we are pushing, encouraging Zimbabweans, let's go and get vaccinated. We want to reach the herd immunity as soon as possible so that we can go back to the street and fight for our rights. The street is the answer to the problems that we are facing in Zimbabwe. We know that.
Okay. Final question. Thank you so much for your time. So I'll throw one more question to finish the program off. Is there a chance ever of dialogue between MDC Alliance and ZANU-PF, of dialogue between Advocate Nelson Chamisa and President Emmerson Mnangagwa?
Look, the first party to call for dialogue was the MDC Alliance led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa. You will see, if you go back, that when Mnangagwa grabbed the power through the coup, we wrote to him to say, look, you have taken power forcibly, let's meet and take back the country to the democratic path. We wrote them a letter, they ignored us. What Charamba did, he then released the letter mocking us, that we were calling for dialogue. We were not disturbed, we are not worried, because we think ultimately that as Zimbabweans, we must sit down and resolve our problems. Any conflict ends with dialogue. People must sit down. The party, the MDC, has given the mandate to dialogue to the office of the president, led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa. And he is clear, he has said every day that he is open for a non-conditional dialogue with anyone who is interested in resolving the problems that Zimbabweans are facing. But Mnangagwa is not interested in dialogue, because dialogue will stop him from looting gold. Dialogue will stop him from looting platinum. Dialogue will stop him from looting the treasury. They do whatever they want, because they remember that the time that there was a unity government led when Morgan Tsvangirai was prime minister, the looting stopped and the economy improved. They know that. So they are not interested, because they want to continue looting the resources of the country. So
ZANU-PF in their defense are saying there's Pollard. There's Pollard to facilitate dialogue. You know, what's your problem with Pollard?
Look, Pollard, the biggest problem with Pollard is that it's a body that is comprised of people that are not in disagreement. All those people who are there don't disagree with Mnangagwa. We have got issues that we disagree with Mnangagwa that we want to resolve. The reason why people sit down to dialogue is because there are issues that they don't see the same. But can you tell me one thing that the Pollard group does not agree with Mnangagwa? None. So those people, it's not a platform for dialogue. The dialogue that we want, we are not looking for a dialogue between Mr. Mnangagwa and Mr. Chamisa only. No, we are saying these two as the leaders. Mr. Chamisa is the person that won the 2018 election and who was denied the presidency, and Mr. Mnangagwa, the imposter, who is in State House by false pretense, must first meet and discuss. Then later on, we involve everybody, the farmers, the workers, the students, everyone, not only those failed political parties like the ones that are in Pollard. People, most of those people in Pollard did not even get the same votes that I got in Kuwadzana, myself. So those people have no legitimacy to represent people. But we understand that as people that got maybe 0.005%, they also have a stake like any other Zimbabwean. But they cannot be the only platform that resolves the problems that the country is facing. We need a platform that involves all Zimbabweans coming together and resolving our challenges once for all, so that we can have the Zimbabwe that we want.
Let me just smuggle in one more question, because I'm trying to clarify something here. So we have a stalemate. ZANU-PF have their own conditions for dialogue. You as the opposition have your own conditions for dialogue. So poetwase, what happens?
Atina ma condition. Kuti ngati gare pass. Mnangagwa must sit with the legitimate person that won the election. We don't have, that's not a condition. Tirikuti where tigare, so that we chart the way forward. You know, it's ZANU-PF that does not want negotiation because they want to continue looting the state. They are looting the state because they know that their time on this earth is numbered. We have got age on our side. We have got interest of Zimbabwe on our side. So they don't want us. They prefer parties that they create themselves in Pollard, or the puppet party led by Monzora. So that is ZANU-PF's choice. But look, the option of dialogue is there, but it's not the only option that we have. We are going to drag Mnangagwa kicking and screaming, because the people will soon be speaking. They will be speaking in the streets. They will be speaking in the farms. They will be speaking in the industry. They are going to be speaking everywhere. If he thinks that we are going to allow this situation to go on as it is, people failing to get food, people failing to eat, people failing to feed their families, he is lying to himself. We are not afraid of anything. He has arrested a lot of our members. He has killed our members. I was in jail myself in Chikurubi. I'm not afraid of going back to jail again. So we are there. We are just waiting, as I said, being responsible, making sure that we get past the COVID pandemic that we are facing. But Mnangagwa is going to be challenged. Zimbabwe is going to be freed from Mnangagwa's dictatorship, and that is coming, Comrade Lance.
Okay, many thanks for speaking to Chalton Hwende, the Secretary General of the opposition MDC Alliance. I hope Tavunza everything that you guys have asked us to ask. If you have more questions, we can drag Mr. Hwende back for part 2. But I think I've asked everything that I got to Twitter inbox, Instagram inbox, Facebook, even on our editor at Nehanda Radio email. So that's Chalton Hwende, the Secretary General, MDC Alliance. I'll talk to you after the outro, Mr. Hwende. Keep on the line, Anditika.
Thank you.
Anditika, Erebo.